What type of sick, twisted lunatic would do this to a poor lamprey that would never hurt anyone?
Time of death is 1407. You guys are going to need to take an autopsy to determine the cause of death.
The lampreys consist of two skin layers, the glandular epidermis and the underlying dermis, the fibrous layer that attaches the skin to the underlying muscle mass. The majority of the lamprey's body consists of muscles. The muscles on the trunk of the lamprey are arranged in W-shaped bundles called myomeres, and which are separated from one another by membranes called myosepta. The myomeres of lamprey have no horizontal septum dividing them into hypaxal and epaxal muscle masses, as seen in true fishes.
Sea lamprey is a type of jawless fish whose skeleton is made of cartilage, not bone. Lamprey have suction disc mouths with sharp teeth that they use to feed on the body fluids of fish. They do this by using a file-like tongue to attach to fish and puncture the skin. The blood of the host fish does not clot while the sea lamprey feeds because of an anticoagulant in their saliva. When fully grown and living in the sea, the lamprey's only aim is to feed. Lampreys are very aggressive when hunting down a suitable fish and attaching themselves to the host. They are very unfussy about which species they choose to feed on. Sometimes, fish can be found with several lampreys on their body.
The largest muscle in the head region maneuvers the rasping tongue during feeding. The rectator lingual muscle of the tongue extends from the rear of the tongue back to near the end of the respiratory tube. It withdraws the tongue into the mouth. The protractor lingual muscle of the tongue is much smaller and lies ventral to the protractor muscle. It is attached to the prominent lingual cartilage and is responsible for protruding the tongue out into the buccal funnel. Additional muscles around the buccal funnel serve to modify its shape and assist in feeding and respiration.
After the eggs are fertilized, the female covers up the eggs with sand. After the eggs hatch, they spend at least 3 years as harmless larvae, and then undergo transformation, where they develop eyes and a sucker-like mouth with sharp teeth. Like other jawless fish, lampreys have no stomach. The esophagus grades directly into the intestine, where both digestion and absorption occur. Digestion of food actually begins with the addition of enzymes that are produced by the buccal glands. These glands empty into the buccal cavity on the underside of the tongue as two inconspicuous pores. The secretions have proteolytic properties that initiate the digestion of host tissues and anticoagulant properties that prevent blood from clotting. The liver is a large, single-lobed, triangular-shaped structure located just below the intestine and behind the heart. The connection with the intestine, the bile duct, is reabsorbed at metamorphosis in many lampreys and becomes inconspicuous in others. There is no discrete pancreas in lampreys. The endocrine and enzyme-secreting functions of the pancreas are carried out by diffuse patches of cells on the lamprey's intestine and liver. At the front of the lamprey's head is the buccal funnel. The buccal funnel lacks jaws. It is fringed with sensory papillae, which also function like a gasket to assist in forming a watertight seal for attachment to prey, substrate, or other objects. The buccal funnel is also lined with keratinized sharp teeth, which are epidermal in origin and composed of cornified cells and therefore are not homologous to the true teeth of other vertebrates. The protrusible tongue of the lamprey is attached to the ventral side of the mouth, which is at the center of the buccal funnel. The gonad is large and unimpaired, supported by a dorsal mesentery, and occupies most of the body cavity in mature adults. Lampreys have impressive reproductive capacity. A single female can contain up to 250,000 eggs or more for her single lifetime spawning act. Permanent genital ducts are lacking. Sperm and eggs enter the body cavity and are discharged via the paired genital pores at the posterior end of the body cavity, which open into the urogenital sinus and exit via the urogenital aperture.
The average lifespan of a sea lamprey is 14 years. They spend about 10 years in freshwater and about 2 in the sea where they mature. Using their mouths to attach to stones, they take rest during migration from the ocean back to seawater where they spawn in the spring. Soon after, they die, and their larvae spend several years in the rivers.
On the sides of the lamprey's head, you will see 7 pairs of external gill slits, which lead to the respiratory gill pouches, and 1 pair of eyes. Unlike the eyes of higher fishes, lamprey eyes are connected directly to the surrounding skin, but are equipped with muscles for eye rotation, because their movement is limited. On the top of the lamprey's head is the single median nostril, or nares, which functions purely for smell, not respiration. Immediately behind the median nostril lies a smooth, circular, unpigmented patch of skin, which is the pineal cornea, which protects the underlying pineal organ or pineal gland. The pineal eye plays a role in both endocrine function and in setting the lamprey's biological clock and seasonal bases.
The heart of the lamprey is a large structure found just anterior to the liver and inside the pericardial cavity.
Deoxygenated blood drains from the liver into the hepatic vein from the head via the inferior jugular vein, which lies ventricle to the tongue musculature in the floor of the bronchial region in the first and second cross sections, and the paired anterior cardial veins into the heart, thin-walled tubular sinus venous. After the sinus venous, blood passes into the heart's single atrium and finally enters the ventricle, a muscular structure which actively pumps blood into the ventricle aorta. From the ventricle aorta, blood travels to the capillaries of the gills lamellar for gastric exchange. The afferent bronchial arteries branch from the ventricle aorta into the gill arches, and the efficient bronchial arteries carry the oxygenated blood away from the gill arches.
Studies have shown that a single lamprey can kill over 40 pounds of fish in its life. Sea lampreys are parasites in their adult stage, attacking a wide range of salt and freshwater fish, including herring, mackerel, salmon, trout, and even some sharks.
The brain of the lamprey is divided into 3 major sections: the hindbrain, the midbrain, and the forebrain. Like true fishes, lampreys have 10 cranial nerves, unlike higher fishes. Lampreys have only 2 semicircular canals for orientation and balance. Detailed structure of the brain will probably not be visible. Originating at the posterior end of the brain and running just dorsal to the notochord for the length of the lamprey's body is the spinal cord. This transmits nerve impulses between the brain and the body. Nerves exit at each body segment along the spinal cord, and they are completely separated into dorsal and ventral nerve roots, a feature unique to lamprey. Because lampreys lack mineralized tissue such as bones, lampreys are rare as fossil, and their evolutionary history is still poorly known. Only 3 definite lamprey species are known from the fossil record, all from the Pennsylvania Lake Carboniferous of northeastern Illinois. These are very similar to living lamprey and suggest that the group has not changed very much in the past 300 million years.
Lampreys were first found in Lake Ontario in 1835, but they soon spread to other Great Lakes due to the Welland Canal. They greatly affected fisheries because Canada and the United States harvested 15 million pounds in the early 1800s, but by 1960 the catch dropped to 300,000 pounds.
After analyzing the autopsy, we believe the lamprey's cause of death was being out of water for too long. Never forget, Lamprey, 2015.